June 8th, 1924, the greatest mystery in mountaineering history was started. George, Lee, Mallory, and Andrew Sandy Irving set out on this day to try to summit the largest mountain in the world. However, they never returned. This is a story with a lot of theories, mysteries, and questions that are yet to be answered. The biggest question of them all is, did they summit the mountain before Edmund Hillary did? Back in 2018, I woke up to get ready for school, and Simple History had posted a video, something about the worst deaths on Everest. I was watching Simple History back in the day because it's tied into, they did a lot of World War I stuff. I was playing Battlefield 1 back then, so that's how I saw their video. However, I was watching that video in the morning before school, and I saw the article they did about George Mallory and Andrew Irving, where they were trying to climb, and then they disappeared. They found George Mallory's body, but they couldn't tell if they had summited first. And I just thought it was really cool because I've always been interested in early 1900s technology. I've always found it interesting, fascinating how they did things before the modern stuff that we have now. That really captivated me, and I went to school that day, just all day, just researching stuff about their expedition to the top of the third pole, also known as Mount Everest. I even changed my background on my computer for the past 5-6 years to this really cool picture of them trying to summit. And ever since that day I learned about them, it's always been in the back of my head. Did they truly summit, or did they die trying? I mean, they obviously did die trying, but we don't know if they summited yet. I also found George Mallory very interesting because he was a World War I veteran. I believe he joined in 1915, and he served all the way up to the end of the war. He was with the artillery guns, so he was launching artillery over no man's land. He has handwritten letters that he sent to his wife talking about all of his experiences throughout the mountains and the First World War. In one note, he describes how he saw flamethrowers for the first time, and he saw like the trenches all just catching on fire, and explosions, sparks, like firecrackers going off is what I assume. But I think it's very fascinating to read stuff about that. George Mallory, after World War I, he survived. I think he had like an ankle injury, but he was mostly unscathed. He went back to mountaineering because that was always his interest. He loved climbing mountains, summiting, and pushing himself to the limit. George Mallory was 37, 38 at the time of his Mount Everest ascent. Now his partner, Andrew Irving, he was only 22 at the time. He was selected by George Mallory himself because he has very expertise in repairing the oxygen tanks and all like their equipment, like the Primus stoves, all their little new technologies. Andrew Irving was very intelligent and he could figure out stuff. And I believe he went to school for engineering as well. And at that time, it was debated on whether they should use bottled oxygen or do it, natural breathing. I think George Mallory didn't think it was as sportsmanship to use bottled air, or English air is what the Sherpas called it. But George, after his time on the mountain, came to realize the importance of the oxygen tanks, and he selected Andrew Irving because he was very expertise in working on them, and he even reduced the weight of the oxygen tanks and backpacks. Andrew Irving definitely had his knack around working on the oxygen tanks. Now another thing is Andrew Irving was 22 years old, the same age as me. Pretty crazy to be that young and to be summiting Mount Everest and even dying at 22. It's kind of wild to think about. Like, I've been doing my own exploration since I was as young as I can remember. I live in the woods, so I'd always go out here and explore. Right now I'm building a log cabin. As you can see, I'm sitting on the log depot. But when I was 18, I did an expedition to Mexico, went through mines and all that stuff. Being 18 out there was pretty tough on me. I wasn't as mentally strong as I am now, didn't have the mental fortitude. When I was 19, we had a lot of snow out here, and I was still learning how to hone my survival skills and really train myself in the snow. It was a lot of learning. We usually don't get snow out here in Texas, so it was definitely a new experience. But finally at 22, I think I've matured quite a bit. My physical strength is at its peak. I feel like I can do quite a bit. I feel like I could summit Mount Everest, but to die at 22 is something kind of wild. Couldn't really imagine dying this early. Andrew Irving passing away at 22, that's crazy to think since I'm like the same age as him right now. And he was on Mount Everest and passed away. That's just kind of something that's been going through my head. At 22, being offered the chance to climb Mount Everest is truly like enthralling. I don't know a good word for it, but very, very exciting. It's something I would 100% go with because number one, you're young, you get a chance to prove yourself, prove your strength and all that stuff. So I can see why Andrew Irving went on this trip with George Mallory. Just imagine like being 22, being one of the first to summit Mount Everest. That's like, I'm pretty sure he has like a track record of doing other crazy stuff. He is a really smart guy, engineering student. So it seemed like he would live a very successful life if he didn't die at 22. I believe when he was sailing off to Mount Everest, his brother or something, or Andrew Irving was on the boat, and his brother with his family was waving off to him, and his brother was like, "That's the last we'll ever see of him." I think I've read that somewhere. I thought it was pretty funny, but yeah, it sadly became true. Never saw of him again, and we still are yet to see of him. Now, when it comes to their death on the mountain, we're not entirely sure what happened. However, Conrad Anker and his team in 1999 found George Mallory's body. At first they thought they saw Andrew Irving's body, but when they took a look at the clothes, they found out to be George Mallory. There's a whole video that they recorded. There's tons of photos online of George Mallory's body, and they searched through all his belongings and all possibilities of how he could have died. Now, what they found on him was like a watch that was broken, so they think, you know, he could have been sticking his arm somewhere in a crack. They found some letters, his snow goggles, you know, what you'd wear during the day because it's so bright out in the sun. They were taken off and they're put in his vest pocket. So they believe he may have been descending the mountain at night, hence the reason they took off his snow goggles. The main thing that they were searching for they could not find, which was a Kodak vest pocket camera. The team was hoping to find a camera because if they found a camera and could develop the film, they would prove whether they summited or not. So without the camera, they couldn't prove if George Mallory and Andrew Irving reached the summit. Another particular item that George Mallory was missing was a photo of his wife. Now, he promised his wife that he would leave a photo of her on the summit of Mount Everest. And they're searching in his wallet, they're searching all over him. They could not find that photo of his wife. So perhaps he could have left that photo on the summit of Mount Everest. That's one supporting reason where they may have summited Mount Everest. There was blood on his vest. Could mean they had an injury earlier, or it could have been from the fall. Now, the thing that is believed to kill him was there was a big puncture in the front of his skull. So what could have happened is he could have fell with Andrew Irving, was sliding down the mountain and like bumped his head. Some think he had like his ice pick and he was gliding down, and then his snow pick bounced up and poked him in the head. From my research, I haven't found any definite reason on how he died. Another thing notable about his body is the ropes that he had tied connected to Andrew Irving. The ropes around him had tightened up really well. They had bruised like his insides. Obviously he had a massive jerk when they were falling. Always imagine, what if you could just like see exactly what was happening? Like, imagine you could just teleport back then and see exactly their last moment. It's always really brought up my curiosity about the whole subject, is like, how are they doing in their last moments? Because they're last seen 12:50 p.m. from way down the mountain. One of their buddies saw them heading straight to the summit, or trying to. So it's hard to imagine when they're leaving or just when everything happened. So one of these guys I was watching recently was one of the guys who was on the documentary team with Conrad Anker, and he was one of the guys who actually found George Mallory. He has this YouTube channel called, I'm just gonna throw it up on the screen, Everest Mystery. He talks about all these theories and like his experience. I'm still watching a lot of his videos. I think he makes really good videos, and I think it's cool that an explorer like him actually knows how to make YouTube videos, like not just talk but like actually make YouTube videos. I thought that was pretty impressive. But he describes, you know, lifting up George Mallory's body. He's literally like face to face with George Mallory. I couldn't imagine that. There's no photos of his face, but I guarantee Tom is never gonna forget about that. So nobody's entirely sure what exactly happened to George Mallory and Andrew Irving the night of June 8th. And to really figure that out, we would need the other body, Andrew Irving. He is yet to be found. Andrew Sandy Irving was also carrying a camera on his person. So if we were able to find him and we found that camera and were able to develop the photos, then we'd know if they summited Mount Everest or not. Kodak claims that the camera's still in good condition. We can still develop the film. It's black and white, been preserved in the ice pretty much forever. So we can find that camera, and then we can develop the film and see if they truly were there. Now, there's a huge mystery if you really dive in deep about Andrew Irving's missing body. Now, Tom, in his videos, I watched this one last night, he's talking about how his buddy does not think that the body is on Mount Everest anymore. He believes the Chinese removed it. And there's a lot of good theories about it. You're gonna have to watch his video if you want to learn more about it. It's a really well-made video made by one of the guys who actually found George Mallory's body. I'm gonna link that in the description. If you want to watch all his videos, go ahead and go for it. But I found it interesting. He thinks, you know, the Chinese, because there's 2 expeditions by the Chinese on the North Ridge. Edmund Hillary, I think it was the South Ridge. I'm probably saying this wrong, but the North Ridge, or the north side, is where Andrew Irving and George Mallory attempted. There's 1, 2, and 3 steps. Very hard. The second step is extremely difficult. There's a lot of rock climbing. You have to be a very experienced rock climber to get across the second step. Now, in 1960 and 1975, the Chinese set up expeditions to try to conquer the mountain from that side and be some of the first. Chinese accounted of a European body and old clothes, and they believe that they found Andrew Irvine. Now I can't find a lot of research exactly like how his body was or like what exactly they did with it. When those Chinese were summiting north side, they could have took his body down with them. I don't know why the Chinese would keep it secret. One theory is that they wanted to be known as the first to summit on the north side and not give all the fame to George Mallory and Andrew Irvine. Chinese, let's say they found the camera, they developed it, found photos of the summit, then that would prove that George Mallory and Andrew Irvine were the first to summit from that side and not the Chinese. A lot of convincing evidence that the Chinese did take it, but as of now, there's nothing confirmed. It's a huge rabbit hole to go down. I'm still doing research into these stories. I can spend hours literally just watching videos or reading notes about this. It's just that fascinating to me. But hopefully as time goes on, we'll discover more about it. I've always really wanted to go find that body myself. That's a crazy thing to say, but ever since in 2018 when I discovered about this, I was like, man, for the 100-year centennial, I want to go up to Mount Everest and try to find the body. However, Mount Everest closed in 2019, 2020 due to COVID. It just recently reopened. There's a lot of new restrictions now. I believe at a minimum you have to have summited a 7,000 meter mountain, and it's pretty darn expensive to be able to climb that mountain. It's thousands and thousands of dollars. So it's out of my scope, but maybe in the future I'm definitely willing to go summit Mount Everest. It's always been a dream of mine, especially since I read about their story. If there was a team to go try to find his body again, 100% I'd want to go. I feel like I could document everything pretty well. So say you're watching this and you're trying to form a team, count me in, because I'd 100% go with you. I really just want to get to the bottom of this mystery. It's always going to be in the back of my head until it's solved. And by making this video, I'm hoping more of you guys will be interested in it. The more people we can get in on it, the more interest will bring about the subject. More likely we'll be able to figure out the bottom to this whole rabbit hole of all this stuff. So every viewer watching this can do their own research. If you're Chinese, you could get into the Chinese officials and figure out what really happened and post it anonymously. And I just really wanted to make this video for the 100-year centennial. I feel like it's the least I could do is just bring a little bit of awareness to you guys about this whole story. So I thought it was fascinating, and I feel like you guys would really find the story fascinating as well. Shout out to all the creators, shout out to Tom, and hopefully we can get a new generation of explorers to try to crack this mystery. I'm 100% down, so if somebody wants to form a team with me, just let me know. I'm always down. But yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. Go watch some of the videos, go watch the links to the videos in the description. I'll probably link a few cool ones that I think. Yeah, appreciate you guys watching. If you guys want to see more videos like this where we cover explorers or just mysteries and stuff, comment down below exactly that you want to see more of these. Comment down how I can improve them, because I never ever really do videos like this. But if you guys want to see more, I'd 100% do more, because I like this. Once this cabin is built, I'm going to set up an office chair, and I could do videos like this, nice videos like this. But yeah, appreciate you guys watching. Y'all have a good June 8th, 2024, or whatever day you're watching this. And I'll see you guys in the next one. CountryTactical out.